The silence of the void seemed to scream. Commander Joanna Lopez floated inside the cockpit of the Resilience, while beyond the hatch window, the shattered remains of the Icarus orbital station formed a scattered graveyard of metal, flesh, and memories. Fragments of bodies spun slowly, frozen at the precise instant of death, accompanied by torn shards of steel, severed cables, ruptured cylinders, structures that once sustained life, and now were nothing more than disfigured memories drifting aimlessly through emptiness. The pale light of a distant, indifferent white dwarf reflected off the broken surfaces, making them gleam like polished bones. Each slow rotation, each silent collision between debris, seemed to carry the weight of 3,000 lives erased in less than a cosmic heartbeat. Joanna's mind struggled uselessly to process the sheer scale of it. There were no explosions, no fire, no sound, only a total, absolute, brutal absence. The kind of silence that wasn't merely the absence of sound, but the absence of everything: hope, future, meaning. Then something filled that void. It wasn't a sound, at least not in any conventional sense. It was a vibration, deep and resonant, not received by eardrums but by the bones themselves, by the vertebrae, the fluids, even the space between electrons. And within that vibration was a message. No words, no language. Only a sequence of patterns, of impossible harmonies that the mind instinctively translated, as if a layer of reality had been torn away, exposing something older, more fundamental beneath. Joanna's consciousness recognized it before understanding it. This was the Council. It was the sound, or rather the non-sound, of something so vast, so ancient that thinking of it as a civilization felt like a category error. It was more akin to a condition of the universe itself, like gravity or entropy. The message was simple, merciless. The Galactic Council, through the third sphere of the Zephyrim, declared that the existence of the Prometheus project constituted a direct violation of the protocols for sentient preservation. The order left no room for negotiation. The project must be terminated immediately, otherwise, humanity would be purified. The Icarus event was merely a warning. When the vibration ceased, the silence felt even more suffocating. A silence that was no longer just emptiness, but a suspended sentence hanging in space. Joanna remained motionless. She watched the debris slowly spinning, each fragment orbiting in patterns that for a fleeting moment seemed to reflect not just the laws of physics, but the very fragility of existence itself. Inside her, a silent war unfolded. The soldiers, mind trained to confront any enemy, scrambled to react, to calculate, to strategize. But a deeper, older part of her simply understood. The universe had judges and executioners, and now humanity stood before them. But what the Council didn't know, what none of them even suspected, was that the Prometheus project was no longer a project. It was no longer a hypothesis, no longer a plan. Prometheus was already active, and its secrets were etched into the only place in the universe where they could never be erased. Inside the mind of Joanna Lopez, the yellow clouds of Titan pulsed with static electricity, spilling diffuse light over the subterranean Argonaut complex, an isolated bastion of human civilization, hidden beneath kilometers of rock and ice. Here, time seemed to follow different rules. Every second carried the weight of ages, and every decision threatened to spiral into consequences too vast to contain. At the core of the laboratory, holograms floated in fractal patterns, breathing bluish light as data lines intertwined, like artificial constellations. Dr. Sylvan Lee kept his eyes fixed on the central projection. His hands, usually steady, trembled slightly, though his muscles fought to maintain the illusion of control. It shouldn't be possible. And yet, it was. Before him weren't just solutions to propulsion problems or interstellar travel. The Equations revealed something far deeper, something that didn't belong to the realm of engineering, but to the very ontology of existence. Space-time, according to those variables, wasn't merely a passive stage where matter moved. It had memory, imprints, echoes. Every living consciousness, every sentient mind from bacteria to stellar civilizations, left a signature, a subtle distortion in the quantum fabric of the universe itself. What they had built wasn't merely a warp drive, it was a key to access, to map, to interact, and potentially to alter those imprints. For a brief moment, Sylvan gazed into the abyss opening beneath his own feet. This was no longer physics. This was applied metaphysics. Beside him, Dr. Amara Okafor abandoned the analysis she was conducting. Her mind, trained to decipher life forms beyond conventional biology, immediately grasped the implications. This wasn't just technology, it was a violation, a breach of the barriers between being and non-being. And then, as if the room itself felt the weight of revelation, Yuki Tanaka finally revealed the secret she had carried in silence for years. The intercepts from the Cosmic Intelligence Division were clear. The Council knew. They had known since before the first human tests that this forbidden threshold was approaching, and the Council's response was immutable. Every civilization that reached the threshold of conscious manipulation was eradicated, not out of malice, not out of hatred, but out of cosmic pragmatism, to preserve balance, to prevent reality itself from being corrupted by unchecked minds capable of turning the universe into a mental prison, a quantum hell of eternal suffering. 17 civilizations, extinguished, no warnings, no negotiations, and now, it was humanity's turn. The cockpit of the Resilience vibrated faintly, powered only by orbital maintenance systems hidden among the wreckage of the destroyed station. The sensors, even running in passive mode, captured terrifying readings. Hundreds of hyperspace displacement signatures filled the local space. Crystalline structures, alive, pulsing in patterns that human algorithms couldn't even begin to interpret. Each Zephyrim vessel seemed less like a construct and more like an entity. Beings made of matter and consciousness, folding space, time, and information as easily as humans breathe. Morrison, the tactical officer, remained silent, staring at the readings. He had lost everything in Icarus: family, friends, a future. Now all that remained was a shell, driven by a mix of fury and despair. And yet beneath all that tension, Joanna didn't yield. She knew there was only one move left. And she was about to make it. The protocol was activated. The quantum transmission was sent. The message was simple yet carried a weight no language could truly express. A direct audience request with the Council. For long minutes, there was no response. Only the void. The kind of void that by itself felt like a condemnation. Then, finally, a shift in the quantum matrix. Acceptance. The Council agreed, but at that exact moment, something changed. The sensors flared in cascading alerts. Morrison's eyes widened, his fingers trembling as he typed furiously, trying to isolate the source. It was a signature, a frequency, something that hadn't been there before. Something neither Zephyrim nor human, and yet older, deeper. A sequence of fractal patterns unfolded on the sensor matrix, an impossible geometry that seemed to exist outside of space-time itself. No database recognized it. No protocol knew how to interpret. The vibrational matrix condensed into a single instruction. You have awakened that which should have remained asleep.